We're live, and maybe this time we can actually hear me. That was a good, the first horizontal live by 9 directions. No one could hear a word I was saying. That's fun. I'm able to say it all over again. Though, when we do have someone join, if anyone joins, please. Oh, we've got little bars saying that you do hear me. You might actually. But just the same, I'm going to keep rambling until someone says we are, because no one's here yet. But I've got hearts. But I've got little bars. Balance of weaponry specifically. That's been pondering upon. Hello, swollen salads. Do you hear me? If you could just like thumbs up or just let me know, because for a while there, I've been talking to myself entirely. And I just stare at the bottom. So what I'm going on about is balance of this kanabo. You can hear me. Hello, can you hear you? Hello, we can hear. Thank you. The last few minutes of the last setup, doesn't matter, we're here now. I'm working on a kanabo, but specifically I'm working on remaking a kanabo from that book right there. And the first drawings gave me this, and I absolutely adore it. And I keep stating to the point of myself, it's like, no, I just need to get stronger. But after about half an hour of swinging this beast around, my thighs get sore just from trying to stop it to show control, which really made me wonder that if this doesn't have balance, it won't fight well. But it's a beautiful piece of wood. I have knives everywhere. Balance. So when it comes to a throwing knife, that you want to understand where your rotation is. You want to know where your throwing point would be, usually putting it over your thumb. But no matter what, you're getting used to it. But for a knife, this is kind of standard. Though if we look at the tipping point, that point is right there. So the balance point is just behind. You can hear me now. Thank you for letting me know you couldn't hear me earlier. I would have just kept on going for the next half an hour if you hadn't made that mention. I'd like to say we haven't gotten too far, but you haven't heard anything of what we'd actually been talking about. Retro Delights, thank you. I am doing well. I was hoping my new microphone was going to do this job, but as long as you're hearing me, I'm ranting about balance today. I'm getting to a bigger point, but the point right now is balance, and this is of a throwing knife. This is not a throwing knife. This is just, get in front of the camera, in a sense, just a large kunai for working. Now this one is like dead on the center of balance to the point I have to keep it upside down because I can't balance on the other side. Handheld choppers. This is just solely a throwing knife, nothing more. Thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you for stating that, though. That actually just, we would have been lost. And the last throwing, just a final example of that center balance. And I'm going to learn for myself, keep putting these things away so it doesn't get completely cluttered. Now, when it comes to, in this case, a katana. This is really quite inappropriate, just to balance points. We're getting further out now because we want to have that feel of the blade in our hands. We want that guidance, but we also want it to push through and pull through its target. So when you're holding something like this, you're getting that constant feedback of the edge. If you were to bring that balance point right to just like a throwing knife, now all the weight is just solely in a handle. It makes it feel a little strange. It also makes your reaction time really fast. Cutter, single edge. It's gorgeous. It is a gorgeous blade. Oh, all blades are gorgeous. And now into a dao. I gotta learn where the camera is. Now this one's even further out. It's roughly about the same thing, but you're still feeling where that balance point, where you're supposed to feel. So when you're fighting, when you're cutting with the katana, it's the kasaki, that very tip that you want to ponder upon. That's where it's doing the cutting. You want that to get to target. But it's that point of being able to feel where that gets to target. And this is where a lot of swords really lose that ability, that if the balance isn't there, and I keep referring, tapers, fullers, edge, that's all going to give you a balance. It's going to give you a feel. A balance right now is really just an open-ended term that I'm using for how this should move and how you should control it, so it doesn't get to that, well, cumbersome. Bowie knife, still a cutter. I still state this as like a short sword, and that's very close to the handle, but well back to make for good feel. All of that is in definition to when bringing this, and this piece is coming from an antique. It is an antique. Who am I kidding? This is coming from this book, Arms and Armor of the Samurai. I don't think it needs sound effects, but you see this piece here. So, long story short, short story long, I wandered out to train with this for a while to feel, because finally it got to the point after the last, do you know how to use all of them? In a sense, yes, I made all of them, so I do know how to use all of them. Ninjutsu is just, it teaches such a broad respective weaponry. And because of that, this falls under a stick. So I took this out and got some swinging put into it, because as of the last carving, I actually started to be able to control it. I started to be able to control it. Not a great sentence. It took a lot of energy. It took a lot of swing. But in doing so, it started to feel more like a sword, but it also, the balance is way off. And knowing that I'm going to put 3 pounds of steel still upon this, I'm guessing at 3 pounds. I don't know if it's going to be that much. So I went back looking, where did I get this wrong? And then there's just my own personal caveat. It's really easy to be creative. You can just imagine something and go, with a little bit of ignorance, you can put it together and you can make something and go, I made this, and it's exactly as I imagined it. And no one can say anything against that, because it is truly your piece. This isn't my piece. So I keep having to condition and think and practice and train and question and draw pictures. So this is the first picture I drew. I got my 1/4 inch taper put on it, because balance, got to have a taper, but it seems it's cartoonish. Ooh, big comment. Countless. Man, I make a kusurigama, but with rope. Nice. 3 mile, 1 rope, meteor hammer, chain and chain, Miruki Kusari, 2 meters of chain, and I train every day. Just a little bit every single day, and think what you'll be in a few years. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, and keep up the good work. Love seeing all your content. Glad you make it to the stream. Thank you. It's a nice change. And I thought I'd jump to horizontal. We can see so many more weaponry and this aspect of tools. So within that, coming back and going, I like how it felt, but it could be way more awesome. It could be way more awesome. I still need to be stronger. That's not off the board. But with this change, and this is roughly, I still don't understand this camera, 7/8. That is 4 inches. This is, sorry, 3/4 of an inch reduction of the main head, down still a 1/4 inch taper, but down to 2 3/4. I'm not going to guess much in weight, but that is going to make this staff much more manageable. That's the word I'm looking for. But it's all that it has to have. Like, this is supposed to go up against swordsmen. Can you hear that, all that shaking? I have nunchaku and I'm trying to learn how to use them. They're foam, of course, nice, but it can be tricky. I'm not Bruce Lee, good obvious. Yeah, none of us are Bruce Lee, good obvious. That's for Bruce Lee. Yeah, for nunchaku, not that we can have nunchaku, and I don't even have foam nunchaku, but get good with the off your back, vertical spin, catch it underneath your armpit, and strike out. Should really get a set. They're good for a workout. I'd rather foam nunchaku than a jumping rope. A jumping rope just trips me out. So when switching this is meant to go against a great sword. A great sword, that's nonsense. It's meant to go against swords. It's meant to, whether it's an odachi or a nodachi, this on the battlefield, I want to get into this target. Comically large. I want to make the argument that, of course, if you're on the battlefield, you've probably got a few people around you that are all specialized in how all of you fight. So someone with something quite large can open up for others to then engage that target. I can see a logic to that. But I can't see it. I can see a logic to that, but if it gets too heavy and this just then takes your balance, it's too easy that you're then defeated by yourself. But this is the caveat, this is the stumbling point. This is where I remain because this part is new to me. I know it has to have a feel, but I like blades. And this is to go against blades, to understand that it has to have a balance. It'll never have the balance that this does. That if I hold that just past the edge, it's well going to fall off every single time because it's a stick. It's a stick that is armored. Wrong hand. This has really easy parts to see where it's weak. It's all the human bits. It's just obvious. I guess in many ways, I'm making a statement that, oh, he's Wolverine. Oh, I'd love to be Wolverine. Actually have adamantium, he ought to be painful as hell, but I'd be all for it. Well, the imagination just gets me off subject entirely and rapidly. It's questioning the balance, then questioning how you move and extrapolating that idea of kind of, what is the creative? You know what? I'm better with just visuals. Is it fantasy? It's from a Korean comic. It's not considered manga, but this is the crocodile. Now, this one is not meant for me. This is meant for someone. I will learn this angle. Why I need the sound effects, I'll never know. It seems kind of ridiculous. It's a batleth, but in playing with it, this thing is not ridiculous, but it's its fourth iteration of getting this right, and I don't think it's right yet. And again, it's for someone like a foot shorter than I like this idea, but it needs to be larger. But it's that question of like, when does it get to the point of just nonsense? When will it no longer function? Because I can come up with ideas of making this blades function and be functional to the point of use. But is it going to move nicely? How does it move nicely? Reduction, reduction, reduction. And all of these pieces, the reduction and removal of steel, wood, getting the grain, getting the shape, getting the distribution of weight is what I'm taking a really long time in saying. because with that, as I just jump off of camera, distribution of weight. It's a batarang. But technically, it's just a shuriken that's double-ended. I have actual double-ended shuriken. This was a replacement for this piece. Doesn't have as much mass, but it didn't need it because it's not near as complicated. But what makes this complicated, because it has to have that balance, so that removal of making all of those edges, but moving them in deeply, so the heavy portion is all in the center, with still that balance point of how much steel is produced in the top of the bat to how much steel is left in the bottom of the bat, to have that balance point. That if it's just throwing it around here, like, that's an important balance aspect, but that's also an important balance aspect, and it's getting those to work. And all of that is said, all of this video, all of this conversation, well, I'm sure the conversation will eventually deviate, but is to find, where does this balance need to be, and is it, or should it remain that some are just, it's all just, I want to say just about smash. That cannot be an appropriate term, but crushing. One of the kanji can be used to making a kanabo is, I think it's shi, and it is to crush, which I get. I think what I'm getting to for the most part is I'm going to have to make multiple of these. Without that, I'm not going to have to ask, I'm not going to be able to get as many questions out of them. Another sad thing. I don't want to talk about sad things, but we've gone. The modern term is bonk. Thank you. That is much more scientific. The proper bonking no jutsu of this tool. I think this would get a 10 of the bonking scale. But it could be so much nicer. Because here's a caveat, though, that with that bonking scale, if no steel were to be put upon it, I think that would totally make sense to leave just as it was. Still with the need to become stronger and work on those techniques, but allowing it to stay at that size to contain all that mass. And I want the idea of the control, but to control that much mass, it's practically 5 feet. So back to, there's that feeling, there's that sensation of knowing where your balance is, to know where you're going to control the tool. Nice to be here. Thank you to be here. Fam, Lamb, Storm. Oh, hello. I am not able to pronounce your name, but you know who I'm speaking to. Hello to you as well. The only example I have of a balance that's entirely behind the handle is this kunai. If you're to use the same principle to sai, the rotation, it's not only ugly, it's just awkward. But with just that little extra, I think this should have more, you can control and you feel where this is. Oh, I guess coffee I like off topic, but did you ever make sewing videos about your clothes? No, I have not made sewing videos about my clothes. The only thing I've done so far is to get my machine back up and functioning properly. I was losing stitches constantly, and I was using, not that you did ask technically, the thread that I was using was just too large for the needles that I had, and with changing out either larger needle, smaller thread, it's back up and running. So that's back on the table. The only now caveat is I need to find a proper insulating layer because I want to do the vest first. And apparently I don't want to change from doing the vest first. So no, not yet. Hype. Thank you. That is very kind. I'm going to keep drinking water. There's a feel. There's classifications of these tools. You can get tools that just feel like steel. You can get swords that, this is a perfect example of what I would state as a cheap sword. Like, quite realistically, just because there's not been a lot of time to be able to put into it. The more money you spend, the more time that was spent upon it, and how that weight is then distributed. Right now, it just feels like a big chunk of steel, but some of the $400 swords, yeah, they're really just big chunks of steel. They cut really well. They just don't have that same balance, that same feel, that same uniqueness that kind of goes into something that is built for the user. I don't have to hit it while I say that. Ooh, do spears have a point of balance, or is it irrelevant for them? No, spears do have a point of balance because everything has to have a point of balance. We're gonna use a naginata because I don't have a spear apparently. It's going to be in your handle range, of course, but it comes down to ease of use and ability to move it into your techniques. Some of these masters working with their katana, moving with their long swords, the Zweihänder practitioners that just jump into their spins and rotate those blades. It's because they've all been able to get behind something that has that balance and make it work for them, because you're able to, there's like a tactile experience to where the balance is portrayed. We are talking about balance, but what about flexible weapons? Whew, yeah, it is just as relevant for a flexible weapon, but only for the parts that aren't flexible. So one aspect of here's a flexible. So for a flexible, if I take the balance point, that really doesn't mean it. But if you have a rope dart upon the end of this, or some sort of strike, meteor hammer, yeah, that balance point would be just before it. So, it's like a force multiplier. The Manriki Kusari, when it was designed, first of all, it just started as a chain. And when 2 weights were added, it was like 1,000 times chain, 1,000 power chain, because you were so far behind that balance point and put that power. That's what makes that thing so dangerous. So yes, it does have a balance point, and that's what you are using centrifugal force to power and then strike from a distance. So in essence, your flexible tool is really the handle, and it's how you're manipulating the handle and that tension to control that balance point. It's more about length and pivot points, right? Muse of the mind. Hey, I don't know if you saw my comment on your Boshiriken video, but how do you carry and conceal them? I try to see as many as the comments I can, but I do not see all of them. Boshiriken are like hard and easy. For larger Boshiriken, I've just got them in leather cases because they can be in different angles, and they can just, you can't see my belt, which means I just have access to get one at a time. But a nicer system to work on is wrist guards, shin guards, body concealment, item concealment. A regular 7-inch Boshiriken to me is like the favorite start off point for throwing, for attacking, for just hand-to-hand fighting. But for concealment, for carry at that point, that you could have arm guards that are going to act as defensive tools. You can have shin guards that are going to do the same thing to go around and be able to carry larger. You could carry them or hide them in different parts of your uniform that would hide that shape. It's just a really awesome shape. The easiest way to describe, and I'm looking around because I know I have one, but apparently it's not here, is to make this, but just in material. That's, lay your material out, put your piece in, and then just do a chalk line, pin it up, and then pull them out, sew right over that line, and it's going to give you a nice contact point to hold this in place. Then it'll look flat, and you're laughing. Have you put through in the chain length weight ratio of a fundo size weight? How many would you carry? Ooh, I like that one. Have you put through in the chain length weight ratio to the fundo size weight? I'm taking that as no. I can't play a lot. So I'm Canadian, and they don't like gravity-driven weapons here. But hey, we get healthcare, so it's a good trade-off. So as far as I can go is with just the chain. Okay. Anyone ever practice with the nunchaku, wood, or foam and hit themselves in the back of the head? Put their hands up now. Flexible tools and myself, we go back with having troubles. It's worth practicing. So using leather is about as far as I go. So I can never really feel that full expression of power, but the training is there. Personally, for chains, I like the short idea, and I like the idea for binding and entrapping. How many would I carry? I'm assuming we're going back to shuriken. As many as I possibly can. Bow shuriken are one of the tools that make I carry or keep a bunch of steel as I'm forging that I just put to the side. It's like, it's not good for really any big project, but I bet I get a shuriken out of it. And you just keep carrying and practicing, and as many as you possibly can, as few as you can, as whatever styles you can. That's or hide them as different points of view. So many. My answer is so many. Oh, that jumped quickly. On your amazingly made weapon like the shuriken, do you only temper the tips or the whole thing? One, thank you for that comment. That's amazingly made. That's very kind. Thank you. No, I temper the whole thing. Blades are great for making sure that you get it right. So, like, can we see that there is... No. We're just going to believe me there's a temper line there. There's a temper line there. And you can see when you get it right, because when you don't get it right, there's no temper line there. With the bow shuriken, it's very different. That when you're using a high carbon steel, which I would prefer to use because I get a lot more throws out of it, it stays much stronger and has a lovely amount of bounce. But if I get that idea wrong, they just crack. It's a crystalline structure if it gets wrong. So the whole item has to be tempered. The whole item, because the whole item is fully heat treated. On some steel, you could get away with just forging it, keeping it to space, and then cleaning it up, and it's going to have enough resilience to hold that shape. And if it bends a little bit, you just take it out, put it with a hammer, tack, 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 and you can bring it back. Those make it really easy. But when you get to these ones, that procedure of heat treat and temper is so important for the entire body. How many to use that? I just want to say I love your videos. Thank you. I think they're actually getting better now. Like little by little, the next one will be better. Thank you. Have you ever considered bringing Gunsen history or someone like him on the channel? I don't think anyone knows about me. To bring people onto the channel, that'd be a fun idea at one point. I've honestly never really thought about it. Just like a little baby channel. I mean, the large double-sided shuriken, you can use a leather pouch, yeah, with the hard flat closure, and with that not loose but hardened leather, yeah. Okay, on that whole of using a hardened leather, which this is in a sense a hardened leather, as you say that would make a lot of sense for the Makibishi. Make something that's not just a leather pouch, but a hardened leather pouch to give that extra strength. Inspiration comes in the strange, that's the strangest of places. It's really convenient. Sorry, I'm just hardened pouch. You saying it, looking right in the eye. It's like, why didn't I think of that? Thank you. Oh, I skipped that one. Good evening, my friend. Good evening. Good evening. It's 2 o'clock for me. What time is it for you? We'd like a world shutout. Nova Scotia, Canada for me. Thanks for the detailed explanation. Very welcome. That's why you're here. Muse of the Mind. Thank you, Muse of the Mind. Well, even if you don't physically bring him here, it might be fun to do something with Gunsen. He does a lot of work on the Japanese historical metallurgy and what. Oh yeah, that would be nice. On that note, there is a dude that works in Japan that makes mempo out of steel, and he would be really awesome. Yeah, that's a fun idea because his work is gorgeous. All with these little hammers and these wonderful wooden forms. Oh, just to spend an afternoon taking pictures and measuring all of the tools. UK, Liverpool, 633, Richmond, earlier than me. This knife case can be worn as a wristband. Ooh, you could wear knife cases worn as wristbands. Why not? This one, no, because it's it's formed to be flat, so it could be tucked into my belt. But if I were to, this one's finished. So once you shape and harden your leather, you're really not going back and reworking it because you, it's always a caveat. This one's sealed. It's been oiled. So once it's been oiled, it's much harder to do so. But if you were to take the same armor grade leather, shape it right from the beginning, hot water, and really push the shapers into place, you could make something really form fitting that you could have really strong close offs for. Close offs? Yeah, that works. Hello. Oh, Savant. Nice of you to see us. Nice of you to join us from France. Hello from upstate New York. We're practically neighbors. How did you go about acquiring all the knowledge? Did you take any workshops or have mentor masters? Yes, and yes. That this has been, I don't know, I think as an 8-year-old, I got obsessed with weaponry, and specifically this sword. I made my first little katana, and I have been practicing, studying. I've gone to Japan. I've spent time with that. I live in Nova Scotia now. This is a total off the topic. In Ontario, the Japanese Canadian Culture Center had a wonderful library, and I used to spend a lot of time sitting on the floor of that library, going through their books. So a tremendous amount of reading, but then a tremendous amount of teachers as well. I've been really lucky. I've been extreme to the point that I need to contact my Shidoshi and thank him for the dojo and the training experience that he created in that environment. Just incredibly lucky about how I've acquired this knowledge. And the rest of it was not the rest of it, but the steel portion, just practice. Steel is wonderful in the fact that if you get it wrong, it breaks. You have to test it at some point. You have to put it to use. And if you did not do it correctly, you have to start over again. There's no save point, which somehow makes for a really good teacher. I hope that answers your question. Savant, yes, of course. I've seen depicted a ninja hiding underwater, breathing with bamboo. Was that real? Was that real? Okay, I could go from a hypothetical that you could technically hide in a certain depth of water and being able to breathe. But if you go too low, the pressure of the water upon your lungs and being able to go and breathe in that air, no, it's just, you would need such a large tube. No, sadly not. I tried that as a kid in the pool. Atlanta. Hello, Atlanta. So well, sir, and the horizontal format is nice touch. Thank you. I'm glad you like the horizontal format. It means it's nicer for the screen, and thank you for saying that. Yeah. You can see so much more of the wall with the horizontal. And since we're not using my phone, it's rare. We cut out at one point. There was one live where interesting subject, and my phone was like, no, I'm done for the day. Metal is a great, because as long as you didn't burn the metal, you can reuse it. That is really a great point, that you can just continue, and then the filings can be used. You can keep drawing it out. Okay, just thank you. That was Muse of the Mind about that idea of reusing. I'd like to share with the world this wonderful cardboard box about the idea of reusing steel. This comes from a piece of farm equipment that started off more than 6 feet long. Steel that just keeps getting reused. I made sure that I didn't want to just do all removal method because there was just so much waste of this beautiful steel. So I forged as much as I could, but it was just, it's so tough. So thank you, Muse of the Mind. You love the view? Thank you. It's better. It's coming. The lighting still, I got some things to learn about lighting. And I think I'm losing this. Am I? No, it's working. Just to, like, shout out that at the beginning of this, I did not have the actual microphone working. So I went for like 5 minutes. So a part of me still making sure I'm even still recording. In all your research, what is it that the most unuseful thing that Ninja would do or practice that you have come across? The most unuseful thing. The most Oh, this is incredibly rude of me, but I have access to really superb nutrition. And when you read about that the energy capsules. Not this doesn't fit in a sense, but I can't think of this is the closest one, but they wouldn't have known. That was the best nutrition they had available to them for those moments. And there's just so much more nutrition available to them. It's really not a good example, but I'll work on it. I will ponder that question. There is some important. Oh, I'm loving. Yes, share secrets is some important for developing always of ninjutsu. When all your research, nice. Thank you for your content. Enjoy your channel. God bless you. Oh, and Kanji in your text. Thank you very much. That's nice. God bless you as well. With the setup you have there, it was a crime to not show more of it. And during the live, you were speaking about ways to carry shuriken a while back. Have you had any new ideas? Thank you. You're right. It wasn't. That's on me. Yes, I've been pondering, and I just stopped. The one that I'm pondering right now. There is shin guards. So these are shin guards would go on your shin. But think like a modern protector, but instead of using chain and plates of steel, use shuriken. The points would have to be up and you'd have to have some sort of metal on the back plate. But the idea of building an armor set, not just shins, but that actually continues throughout the whole body. And apart, nonsense? No. Extra preparedness? Yes. How many can I actually carry without becoming absolutely ridiculous? Because they would work. So no, the only newest one is the shin guards that I'm still playing with. And as of this, the gentleman, which I cannot speak his name, made the comment about different types of carry and kind of going in this idea originally for the shin guards. I was thinking of cotton, something canvas, something thick that you would reinforce, but then you could actually back up the leather portion as well as the armor piece. I guess I'm having an idea right now, but it's not fully formed. Undeniably the black powder experience. It is a crime. Oh, shuriken zone. You're right with my thumb. Really weird dent. It's really weird. I'll be so happy when this thing is fully healed. 1940 here in Sweden. In Sweden, 1940. That's 7. Yeah, 740. Awesome. About the bamboo stick, straw breathing. It's the length of it that's the problem. If the volume of it gets too big, you don't get fresh air. Just inhale, exhaling the same air. That is a big, but there's also think of how you have to extend your lungs. It's just everyone wants that one to work. Our bodies are our temples. I'm a vegetarian, not saying anyone else should be. But our bodies are our temples, and in your temple, it's a vegetarian temple, and we can respect that. And if you toss it, it looks like a regular garbage on the floor. I think I missed something there. Muse. On the armor idea, you can carry 2 or 3 larger rods as bludgeoning tools, and as a back bar, you protect from heavy slashes. Okay, I will, yes, but then let's start playing with different sizes. So if we've got like the little shuriken, and then the slightly larger shuriken, and then the shuriken that takes a lot more time, but it's got a lot more weight, I bring you, now we do have to use our imagination slightly. And if Walter's here, thanks, Walter. I'm still playing with them. I haven't finished them yet. But imagine a shuriken sign. I've sold all of mine in the past, and I miss them so much. And I just have a tiny bit of steel. If this steel left, I'm making one more pair. And instead of having the tong so you can spin and keep that balance, what I do is this part is tapered down, and these go straight up, and every one of them is spikes. The idea that you can have extra, that you can work just as easily as Sai, but complete shuriken upon that close inspection. Hello from Halifax, Maritime Life. Do you have Shodan or Godan? I have Shodan. Halifax, you're practically a neighbor. I'm not armor, but I would wonder what's the armor in. Oh, I'm not an armor, but I would wonder what this armor is defending against. It's a good question. I guess hypothetical attacks. Uh, Lawnmowers? Was any of it attack? I think for me, I don't. What I'm taking from that is I think it's a practice of let's not repeat our past, but let's look at what this armor and what armor can protect from. So if it were to be leather backed with steel, I'd want to assume that that can protect me from a bladed attack. Is that going to state that it's going to stop a full bladed attack? Yeah, that's for the testing portion. But I need to make swords to do that because I would not want to do that with one of mine. Shuriken Zone, very interesting. Strong to the Shuriken and armor. Yeah, you would like that, wouldn't you? You're a little biased though. This is one reason why small uchibari are some of my favorite short and the 35-inch grams. Very lightweight, carrying many of them all at once. Yeah, they're just so convenient. They're so understated. They're so effective. What martial was samurai armor made of? What material was samurai armor made of? I swear I know how to read. The majority of it is going to be steel. We're talking historical, so we're talking 60% carbon most likely. I doubt it's going to go much higher than that, but we're going to have percentage changes. A tremendous amount of silk cord, like a crazy amount of steel cord. The helmets could have been done with just a high carbon steel or a russet steel, usually a russet steel, and they plated them. So they built up those layers so they were quite strong. You'd have interwoven with leather at times. Sometimes the lambs, can we see this? That would have been leather. Sometimes they would have had steel reinforced into the leather, or sometimes it would have just been entirely steel. Date Masamune, a really awesome samurai of his time, armored his whole clan with a very modern suit, and that suit was practically all steel. Of course, it still had a lot of silk within it, but as many components as it could be were made of steel, which actually made it cheaper. And then we've got all the materials that make up that, which is still a lot of silk, cotton, lacquer, and a lot of lacquer. My friend, and I really like your work. Thank you. He said he spoke to you briefly on here. Oh, okay. Pardon me. I read that wrong. My friend and I. Oh, I should just take a moment and read it calmly. He trained in Bujinkan for years and has been to Japan twice. It's a fun pilgrimage when you get to go to Japan and practice in the Hombu Dojo. Yeah, it's fun. Glad to hear it. How's the evil baseball bat coming along? Zion. Oh, thank you. It's coming along really well. I have to do a really scary part, and that is make it much smaller. I've gone a little comical on its size, and it's too heavy for me to properly control, because once all the steel goes on, it's going to go heavier than that. So it's going well, but a bit of a change. Who's wrong? No one can be wrong. If you can fight in armor today, you can really defend yourself today. Maritime life, yeah, right? If you're able to still have that cardio, move, fight, and carry an extra 60 pounds, it's good energy. And hey, I don't want any part of this fight. Talk your way out of it and just move along. That's the point of it. We got to practice. I don't have to shake my fist, but I do. I'm not sure, so don't quote me. No quoting this, but I think samurai armor might have been made out of rattan. Most about no. I can be a bit of an ass saying that because there was some rattan that would be based for building up the dough at times, but then a whole lot of lacquer. But why not? Rattan of bamboo, it's very rarely seen. But if you have to make armor, why wouldn't you make it with whatever you have? I have seen it been used to reinforce pieces, but never just all solely. But I'm still looking down, so. Will you build a Warhammer Maritime Life? Yes. So I start too many sentences with so. This is a comma for harvesting. I need to make a kusurigama, which means it's got a hand position and it's got a sharp blade. But there's also, and I don't know what they're called right now, but it's a warhammer. It's a giant kusurigama that's a little bigger than that. And it's like a 1/2 inch to 3/8 inch steel blade that's just solely meant for puncturing. A Sengoku Jidai tool. And that is definitely on my list of things to make. Maritime, this is a very cool art. I trained in Halifax for years. Well, I'm glad you did. It is a very cool art. It just says just so many different endeavors that you can kind of different paths you can kind of walk down to focus on or just focus on it all. I'm biased though. Practice makes perfect. Oh, Dusty Joe, Dusty Joe. Yeah, you're up there. Sorry, I got nervous there. I didn't think I could board on your name on the board properly. Then it would be a war pick. You're right. That would be a war pick. That would not be. Then yes, I'm going to put that on the list. A proper medieval. I'm just going to a medieval European warhammer. Something that has that added size and weight. Thank you for the correction. What is rattan? I am unfamiliar with that. It is a reed. It's like a bamboo. It's not, but I work with steel. Let's just say it's like bamboo. It's a natural grown cellular item that has a lot of strength to it. Yeah. It's very hard grass. Thank you. It's very hard grass. I'll pretend like I came up with that one. Have you made a kusuri fundo? No, I have not made a kusuri fundo. Sadly, where I live, I can't actually have gravity-based weaponry. The closest I can have is just a chain. Actually, that's a lie. The closest I can have is a piece of rope with 2 leather ends or whatever to actually do the training procedures. At least it gives me a basics. But sadly, no, I have to travel. I do have hopes, though. Travel to Japan. Be able to make those things and practice with them over there. What's your favorite feudal Japan period? Oh, that's a really great question. Oh, how do I? Kid in the candy store here. I love the fact that we can kind of look back upon history quite literally in books and discover these time periods. My absolute favorite would be the non-warring time period of that ninja village in Iga, surrounded by mountains, kind of cut off entirely from a world. But in the time of the Great Enlightenment, when there was a time when the monks were continually traveling from India all the way across through China, through Japan, and they were just traveling everywhere to all of these different monasteries to teach, to practice, to learn. And in the ninja village, that would have been kind of the one kind of in and outs you would have had of people. The rest would have just been nature and time, a time of contemplation. I think that is the most interesting. The one I studied the most, though, is the Sengoku Jidai, which I also want to say it's the most interesting. 100 years of warfare, the aesthetic development that went into the study of materials and how they would go together to create this world. I find it just daunting with how much you can study and learn and still feel like you've not made a drop in this. So my answer is both those time periods are my favorite. The first one, I don't actually have a name for it, though. People don't really get to name the really peaceful times. Dusty Joe, ninjutsu is my meditation, and you, sir, have given me a lot of insight, so thank you. Hey, that's awesome. I'm glad you have that much more to think upon. It's great. It'd be like that much further down the path. Do you think an arquebus would have been relevant at any time period? Do you think an arquebus would have been? It's always relevant. It is a. Why wouldn't this be personal? It's my video. Why? My thoughts upon the arquebus being relevant at any time period. That the Portuguese, these people just show up and go, hey, look what we have. Bang, bang. And other people are like, I would like this. Well, who makes these things? Well, go to the sword people. They make weapons. They make swords. And now they have to make an arquebus. They have to make a gun. It's a matchlock. It's got this little heated piece that will be able to light this new powder to send off a projectile. And I would love to have been a fly on the wall to watch and witness the craftsmen of that time period go, yeah, we can make that, and go about it and make these just such unique period pieces. Past that, I don't find them that interesting. The style of warfare changes so drastically and everything becomes very loud. Kind of stop at the yari, the yumi, the bow and arrow. Maritime life. This art ironically draws in warm, friendly people, which is great, and wonderful students of this art. and that do not like violence. That is so, and it's weird, right? An art that by definition has to be practiced softly, or it's just too dangerous. And the kindest, most friendly, painful people you'll meet. They'll smile and then apply pressure points until you scream, and then smile afterwards and show you how to use them. Yeah, it's a beautiful art. Yes, Sengoku Jidai is very fascinating period. Yes, well, of course you like it. Oh, that is sad. Cane weapons are a favorite of mine. I practice rope dart. Have you? No, I can't practice rope dart. I can practice with my tennis ball and my fake meteor hammer with my lemon. That I can practice with. And I do understand the beauty of it, but quite happily, I practice the flexible tools because I need to have a basis in the flexible tools. I don't like the flexible tools. The flexible tools beat me up for the most part. I like the stuff that stays in one place and doesn't wrap around me. And I like to enjoy the others that have really given into the practice of the flexible tools. Yeah. What do you think of the Native American Eastern Tribe War Club or the Tomahawks? Oh my god. Devastating, nasty. One, they're meant for one purpose and one purpose alone. They don't have a bunch of ornaments like this does. It is meant to get into that skull area. And the tomahawk, the amount of it's laughable is not the right word. They have just enough steel to make it work and to keep it fast. It's just that perfect elegance. Yeah, and they're terrible. They're terrible in that great way because it's guerrilla warfare. But they are tools that meant to do one thing and one thing alone, and they do it really well. And the craftsmanship of those pieces, like cultural heritage. I once heard about a type of Spanish steel called Toledo, which is said to rival steel quality of Japan. Yeah, the Toledo steel, and then there's Woot steel, and then you'd be fighting the Tamishigiri of Japan. I don't know. I just like the legends of these different steels. The Toledo steel, I would have to do a lot more research on. Of course, I've heard of it, but Woot steel is where that original crucible, like true crucible Damascus steel, they say they had kind of magical properties to them. Again, I that's the best response that I could give. I'd have to actually have them. That I'm going to state that the Toledo probably has the same legends that the Woot steel had, and some of the Woot steel said, "No, it wouldn't even rust." That it was sharper than any other blade at the time. It'd be fun to test, but I'm not hedging any bets on that one. What sorcerer is this? Japanese seeing firearms for the first time. Imagine any culture seeing firearms for the first time would be really questioning what was that? That's an issue. How did that happen? And then in no time being able to engineer it, taking on that new information. There's the real kicker. When shown something that we are unaware of and then be able to accept it, that's the gift. Northern Idaho and loving it. Hello, Northern Idaho. What would you say is the best all-around weapon if you could only choose one? Oh, you mean person. That's you only one. What parameters would we have? What would you say is the best? So all around. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna have to choose my best all-around weapon because it comes in a set of 3. I've always got a backup. I've got multiple ranges, and I can control the lethality. That is definitely not a word. How dangerous they are. I'm choosing Psi. Yeah, and it is because in my mind I went to butterfly swords because you get a lot of the same benefit, especially if you have the extra tongs to be able to spin them around for defense. But no matter what you do, they're always bladed, and you don't have that same control. And sometimes you have to have that control. Great question. That scared me for a moment. I'll have to choose something not that's a sword. Someone has to go. Alex, I have to go. Bye. Everyone have a nice stream and the rest of the day. You as well, and thank you for joining us. Trying not to look down on Japanese swords or anything. Sorry if it sounds like that. I did not think you were looking down on Japanese swords at all. It was just like a great question. I don't. They're all the same, right? They all have different benefits. They all have different weaknesses. But in essence, you boil them down. They're just all amazing. Even Woots even looks magical. It does look magical, doesn't it? There's just something so. But then that true Damascus looks so crazy because there's always that one spot that was at the top of the crucible. It's very interesting. But I'm not in the Bujinkan anymore, but I used to have my own school. I do still train, but at my own pace. Hey, excellent that you did have a school, that you're still training and you're doing it at your own level, your own style, your own speed. That's all that matters. It's just about keeping going. It's about taking action. It's about doing something. It's that or just stand still. I don't think any of us want to do this. It's not of interest. Have you ever heard a wing guard wearable that they make a lot of concealed items into multi-tools and tomahawks? I'm sure they would inspire you to some future tools. Heard of a wing guard? Nope. But I saved my pen and pencil. No, I've lost my pen. And I will look it up. I like inspiration. Not that I need more inspiration. I have a backlog of things to make currently. But Tonfa would be mine. That is a great choice. Tonfa, very similar to the Sai. You get all of those ranges. You can control how dangerous they are. You can carry multiple. An extra benefit, though, is the Tonfa. You can kind of construct at any point in time just with a knife or two and access to some hardwood. It's a nasty question. Thank you. Staff or Joe is maybe the best because there's always a stick around. Yeah. Though, as just basic training, that Staff or Joe makes up so much of vast basic practice, regardless of what it is. A stick is a stick. Yeah, I guess that's why I chose those, because that means I can have it. There's so many other just natural weapons you can find. Just a pointed stick the size of a dagger. I think the sword is probably the most popular general purpose weapon historically. Yeah, because every culture has built a blade that carries of steel of a long distance. I pause, I hesitate. It's death dealing. That a blade, even if you just decide to use the back of it, has that much extra danger. You are making a decision. But then being able to make that decision is also a decision for nonviolence. Decisions. Cheeky Bass, thank you for being here. I hope you had a good time. You'd love to talk anytime, any live, ask questions away. What decade did you first hear of this art? For me, it was in the 80s with Stephen Hayes, then Hatsumi. Stephen Hayes was when I first heard from the art. Comic books, definitely Turtles. That would have been the first introduction to the word ninjutsu. Mind you, I had no association at that portion what it was. I just had a lot of confusion. But then, yeah, I did have a Hayes definitely introduced. And then I can't think of his name at the moment. Well, that's useless. But then, yes, then it goes to Hatsumi Soke, who's done so much work upon it. Yeah, it would have been Turtles, then Hayes. Is there a weapon you have zero respect for? One that you think is all hype, no help? I have never been asked that question. What would be a useless tool that is all... Because I just ponder around and think I'm going to have something here that's just going to jump in front of me that is a useless weapon that would be in... Because I'm fighting against my own logic. I think everything has its own use and has ups and downs for their usefulness and how that they would carry and how awkward they would be. I kind of hate myself for this statement. Tiger hook sword. A tiger hook sword that does not have that additional point. There's few tiger hook swords that have a point and then it comes down to go to the hook with all the others. But if you take that away and I no longer have the stab ability and I only have that hook that cuts, no, I take that back. I think that's an awesome tool. No, I have nothing. I have nothing on that one. Thank you for that question. It falls under a Zen Kohan. My brain has been stomped. What is the most useless? Because the tiger hook sword is amazing. Thank you for stumping me. That was good fun. Do you think no concept of having weapons, armor, meaning pointed armor pieces? Having weaponized armor. Yeah, I'm 100%. 100%. I've been lost in the idea of weaponized armor, using Shredder for the example, of having items on you that are completely bladed. Just the fact of engaging with that person is dangerous for your health. If your armor then is those weapons, that's amazing. What they would be, how they would be controlled, no clue. Don't really care. I think it'd be a really cool idea. Hey, Mr. Nine, do you see my email? Shock Willie, I might have, depending. If you're the person looking for a whole bunch of steel, yes, I'm not making anything right now. And if you're the person that keeps correcting my spelling, I also saw that. I'm just a terrible speller. And if you're neither of those people, I probably haven't seen it yet. I apologize. Your brain is also stopped. Thank you. We should all that's a big question. Well, okay, if I can put it out to everyone here, what do you think is the most useless, overrated tool? Because I can't even think to come up with one. I can come up with ones that I'm not good at, and I can come up with ones that I think are a little bit oversized, but I'm not looking at them and how they would be used. So that would be helpful. In ninjutsu, all tools and weapons have their values and importance. Nothing is left unused, right? Everything has its use, no matter. But we've got to say that there's also a value scale to them, because yeah, the tetsubishi are really great, but which situation? What are you in? It just there's so many factors. Just become the sword. Wouldn't that be? Okay, more imagination. That'd be easy. Cyclone knife, triple edge. Yeah, a cyclone knife. I think the chakra. I think that's right. The round kind of looks like a frisbee, but that's definitely not right, with no internal piece. I like the idea because it'd be a pain to make. It would be time consuming. Heat treat would be just absolutely bothersome. And to think that all the outer edge is sharp, now when holding it, fighting with it, carrying it is all quite dangerous. And for what it were to actually do and to be thrown to dent and yeah. But specifically, that's my vote for the useless, more height than it's worth, but it's got to be split. It doesn't have that center handle, because if it's got that center handle, it's kind of useful. It's like really useful again. Red Wing 1473 is my buddy I told you about. Oh, nice. Oh, thank you for telling me about. Would you rather have a 3-bow shuriken and a kama, or a katana in a duel? Other guy has the other weapon set. I'm sticking with the katana. That's for Kama, for Tsuruyama, those are close range fighters. They're gonna want to get in. I don't like people getting in on me. I like to keep my distance, stay back, and attack, and then move in when I have to. That I'm staying to katana because that's where I am more comfortable for my style. Yeah, katana. An Indian Uram. Martial art movies can be useless for self-defense. Yeah. You did offer to do it for me. Thank you, but I have to learn on my own. If I'm not doing it, I'm not even sitting up anymore. Lantern shield is something I personally dislike, like quite complex. A lantern shield. Yeah, that would be complex. It seems like I'm going to catch on fire. I've been thinking about blade shin pads or anything like that. Yeah. Anything that means that the attacker is either going to get caught up upon and somehow inappropriate. No, it's a story for another day. Great answer. The chakram I never imagined being very usable. Yeah, but it's so awesome. No, it doesn't. Caveat, it doesn't seem very usable. But then, parentheses, it does kind of make the statement that anyone using the chakram to an advantage is really quite the warrior. They have an ability that my mere moralness can't grasp. They can do something that I cannot. That's what I said. It's an interesting question. I don't want to really step on toes. So I want to state that I'm looking at solely as like a realistic, real world explanation, not a representation of a cultural idea. What do you think of bolo knives? A bolo knife? I know what a bolo tie is. What's a bolo knife? Does that come apart and is bladed too? I just like blades. Well, it's done. Just got to teach you how to work it. But he will be throwing shuriken at distance. Can you defend multiple shuriken with a katana? No. If there's 3, I'm going to give myself a chance of 1/3. There's a chance. Mike, again, my ability for a kama and bow shuriken, my ability with just a katana and 3 shuriken. Those aren't going to kill me. Again, I'm going to stay back as well as I can. And once it comes down to it, there's just going to be that moment where you don't know. It's that no mind kicks in, and you don't have to have that question of, will I be defeated? Because you're going to be defeated by that simple thought of that bow shuriken's coming at me and I can't deflect it. That I have to have that one-mindedness that if in this scenario, I only have a katana, I got to put everything else out of my mind, knowing that, yeah, not only could they throw the bow shuriken, they could throw the comet just as equally and carry or pull something that I don't see already. That there's always going to be that unknown. And as I go for that cut, that momentary pause, it may be just what they're waiting for. So I still stick with it. I'm sticking with the katana, despite now having to fight 3 bow shuriken and get in past that kama, which I don't like. And if they're holding that kama this way, I'm going to feel a whole lot more comfortable than if they're holding it this way and it goes behind them. But I still pick the katana. It's like a machete, but it will be throwing. It is like a machete. Did Ninja have anything like our modern camouflage, like ghillie suits? Ooh. I would assume they would have something very ghillie suit-like, but more so, I think they're going to do exactly what our people do today, and they would just camouflage just like whomever they're trying to follow. They're going to fit in to whatever style, attitude, understanding. I don't think like real disguise, like the real ninja kit, then to go and stay within those shadows. I just like looking simply at the math, it's just too dangerous. If you were seen just once, you already stand out. But if you dress like everybody else, you can walk right through. Just depends on your attitude. Where messenger pigeons or such a thing in Japan? That's an awesome question. I have never come across. No, unknown. I will add that too. There's a great question. I have seen multiple scrolls, brushes, knives, pipes that all had secret compartments to put secret messages in, but I have never come across an animal that specifically traveled on its own. It's an awesome question. Thank you. Well, the shotgun is more of a ceremonial weapon, and it's used with the cloth wrapped on the edge to grab it. It might be good for slashing. Remember, the shotgun isn't primarily a long-range weapon. See, this is what I was talking about. This, like, it's an awesome tool. I'm just hypothetically trying to come up with something that follows that range. And in my situation, I don't get the cloth because that makes it less useful for me. Everything you add into that, like that handle, like that cloth, that makes it more useful. It's already an awesome tool. Adapt, overcome, and flow, like the 4 elements. Keyword here, flow. Isn't that the truth? Don't become all rigid and say this is not going to work. We've got to stop. We've got to just keep moving forward. You make it function We come back to that. If we in our mind say this is how we want this to happen, that's what we will be destroyed by. So many people give that all the plans go out the window when their plans come together. I don't know. Don't bother planning. Train, 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 and then don't think about it. And it's that training to get towards the not thinking. From every, not including modern, bow there is, which one is your favorite? Not including modern. Oh. I like the Japanese bow. The asymmetry, there's something very aesthetically pleasing about it. The Mongolian bow, it's short, it's got lots of power, it's symmetric, but you have that ease of being on top of a horse. But the Japanese bow gives you that same ability. I've only seen one example, so I can't even be sure this is true. But there was a Korean bow that looked much like, I guess what we would state is like a ninja bow today. It looks like a yari, a Japanese, but just shrunk down, and the limbs were just pushed back just ever so slightly. So it was like a shorter bow. Like it was a shorter bow, like the Mongolian, unlike the Kyudo bow. I think that is my absolute favorite because there's just something so intriguing about it. And then the Japanese bow, and then the Mongolian bow. I'm going to put lastly in there the English bow, just for it's just raw power. I don't have that raw power to see these people working with those bows up to 175 pounds. That's insane. That's amazing. Would you rather have 3 sai or a katana and wakizashi in a duel? Other guy has the other weapon set. Katana wakizashi. Katana wakizashi. The sai gives me that ability to change back and forth. But if you're saying this is a specific fight, yeah, katana and wakizashi employed at the same time. Yeah, they're going to get dung up a little bit. Dung up a bit. Yeah, I'll go with it. Yeah, wakizashi. Yeah. My wakizashi, though, can I have it in this imaginary one? It's more like a kodachi. So wakizashi maybe kind of up to 18 inch. But I'm thinking like maybe 20, 22 inch. It's my imagination. Have you ever trained in shallow water, deep water, or a boat? I know Japan has a rich naval history and there's lots of techniques for aquatic situations. I have done a lot of swimming. I love swimming. I don't know if I ever trained for it. It's just as a kid, if I was near water, I was probably in the water. So I've done the where you wear simulated armor, just a weight vest, weight wrists, and weight ankles, and go swimming and tread water. That is so difficult. There's definitely a cardio. To think that I've seen only online, but it still counts. And it was a Japanese demonstration of Arquebus in full armor in the water. He kept the match dry as he's treading water and firing. No, I've never done anything that cool, but that would be that'd be a practice moment. Have you ever trained in, read that one. The ease of being on top of a horse. The ease of being on top of a horse. Depends if I know the horse. The fresh ones are never easy to be on top of. They're always kind of trying to get you off of them. I don't miss training horses. I really like your Tonto knife. Do you have any drawings so I can make one for myself? Ooh. Do you mean this Tonto? This isn't even one of mine. If you do mean this one, no, but I can always make drawings. But you can also just look this up. This is a Hanwei Great Wave. And if you buy this one, it has a much nicer polish than what this one is. But you can kind of see the Haman. But there's a few knives on that board, so let me know if you mean another one. They all get dunged up a bit. I'm using that. That is yours, Jack. You keep it. You don't want to get them all dunged up. Wonderful wording. I do swear I speak English, just poorly. Yes, this. Okay, good. Isn't that a great sentence? So this is the knife you're speaking of. So if you want to do a screenshot, because it is a pretty one to actually redo. Comes together so nicely. So it's got a deep bohie And if you remake this one, I ask you, when you do the top, do it nicer. These ones are, you can tell that this was done with a, I'm so rude. You just tell it was done with a removal tool. It's something, like an adjective, like a grinding wheel, because of how shallow it goes. It should go deeper, but that's just my own complaint. I've chosen the 3-psi earlier. For like, I chose the 3-psi earlier because it was the only one I could have. And then I'm in my mind, it's like I'm going to run into multiple situations. It's not always just going to be the one clear cut dry. So I want something that's going to give me a lot of options. But if it were just clear cut and dry, and my only objective is to win and be on, yeah, I want something that's bladed. Blunt force trauma, I don't think I can handle that. The Akuchi is just beautiful. It is. Oh, I put that on backwards. Fail. Message deleted. Do you look at the everyday world, daily life as a world, a ninja, or do you think samurai and ninjutsu thoughts and practice is relevant to today's world? Oh, interesting. Well, this definitely is 2025. I like being in the future. But as for relevancy, 100%. That idea of just no mind, that you are confident in yourselves and your own actions, I think that is of utmost importance. To have control of your own thoughts. In the dojo, though my teacher was scary and I had a wooden sword to stand behind, but there is those moments of fear. They're real. Though I'm not under any real threat. Yeah, I think those are good to practice. I think it's really good to understand specifically that I get up in the morning and I am not at war. I don't have to do anything terrible. I get to research and play and just learn. But I think having that perspective is of utmost importance. Ooh, I missed a bunch. Were shields used in Japanese warfare? Yes, they were. Though we rarely get any information on their shields. Their shields were epic and boring. That 5 to 6 feet, one rectangle, was it. Stand behind it. They were boring, but amazingly effective. They were real just carrying walls. I want to make one. But as I said, there's not a lot of information on them. So I'm still waiting to get a good representation. Is the scary mask there as a weapon or just part of the ninja arsenal look? No, I do take that as a weapon. I take that as that representation of that psychological warfare. That you create stories. Words are so much more powerful. And the idea of creating an area, much like Robin Hood, that the forest was haunted, to create an idea of keeping people away through legends, through the mind. I think it's also a representation of don't get lost by your own mind. And when fear takes over, that doesn't mean necessarily that's the world around. So that's representation. You're very welcome for the knife pictures. Awesome. Yeah, when you make it, I'd love to see it. That'd be really great to see. Do you practice rolling regularly? My rolling has gone downhill, literally. Maritime life. Oh, yeah, you've just gotta. No, I don't practice it near as often as I should. Yeah. You quit training it, the punching, the blocking. But when it comes to getting down on the ground and actually practicing kaiten, the ukemi, I'm so lazy. Any ninja tips for approaching learning new topics? Oh, yeah. Empty your mind. Ninjutsu is really great in the sense that what we focus on majority is taijutsu. How does the body move and balance? And each person, each practitioner gets to understand how their body works. Because of that, when you want to visit other dojos and practice other arts, So that no mind, having that proper posture and just being comfortable about where your body is, that's the best way. You can go into any different art and take up because you're looking at what makes those minor differences. And then back to no mind, just you don't know anything. You can come into, I've met many, and I probably was one, going to a class with that idea. It's like, yeah, I know things. And that slowed me down more than anything else. If I could just understand I didn't know things, think of how much more I would have learned. So all of that, that idea of NIMPO to learning new things, just understand you don't know anything and keep moving forward to learn. Food for thought. Sai, with short chain and ball, similar to Surigama, I wonder how that would flow. I think one, not only you could have that at the end of the chain quite easily. It'd be much more control. It's a fun idea. I think you get a real practitioner, make that quite flow, and then see some strange things because then that Sai can go and attack where the scythe really shouldn't. Any early level training book for ninjutsu you would recommend? I used Tiger Scroll of the Kogoro when I was a teen, but aware it's mostly BS. I have a few Hatsumi books too. See, but then you're like entry level training. That's really tough because we were just talking about how often do we practice our roles, the kaiten, entry level training. That's sanshin no kata. Hatsumi's books are amazing. Like this is Hatsumi's. This is the Tenshijin. This is all that he taught, thinking like this is what you should get a basis of. This is what you need to understand. And in reading it, I am so happy I had a teacher because I understand logically what's being said. But if this is all that I were to have, I wouldn't have a clue where to even start. And even if I did, like Ryote Kaiten, okay, backwards roll. For that foundation, other than just your punch and simple squats, a basic exercise, you really have to get in front of an instructor to get some of those basics so you really see the parameters of what you're doing. And then you can go off and practice those a couple thousand times. But as for just a book on that subject, on the basic skills, they're just so confusing. I'd have to say this is one of the best books because it's going to go into more detail than any other book. But at this point, the detail is going to get you bogged down and it's not going to be so helpful. It's a terrible answer. Have you ever heard that the straight ninja to was really a pirate? So heard that the straight ninja to was a real. No, I've not heard that. And I'm sorry I read that so terribly. Find a Bujinkan teacher. There are many now. Yeah, it's what you got to do. Thank you, Squirrel Dance. I hope you have, I guess you're not streaming, but I hope you have a good rest of the day. The empty mind was a peak meme, Marshall. No, the empty of mind was a peak meme, Marshall. Surprised I don't know that one. I'm not surprised. That makes sense because, like, it's kind of a strange statement to empty your mind, and that's the best time to actually be active to do something. You should look up the meme. I take no offense. It sounds helpful. I've only ever thought of it in relation to the dump rare magic card. Where would you target a samurai in full armor? Ooh, where would I? It's a beautiful question. Okay, so if we're attacking an armor in full garb, and we're going to count that you've got your main armor and you've got your other garb on, we've only got a few places. But there's a lot of those few places. So if we start at the head here, the main piece that you're going to go for, that I'm going to go for, is this upward attack to go under this little, because this is going to stay, and it is going. It is laying down. So you have to wait for them to open even that little bit up. But again, there's only a very select amount of places you can go onto a samurai yoroi. There's also like the can openers that you get in to then force these armor wearers into different positions to open up other targets. But They are far and few between. And then when it comes to your actual main dough, depending on the user, there will be one side seam that's open. Now that side seam is closed by the back side, but in essence, that is a weakness. Because when it comes to this whole area, what looks really great when it's on the post, there's a whole shoulder piece that's worn, that's all brocade, and there's armor bit that's all in top, on, and laying down. But underneath the sode and underneath that armor piece that would have been here, there is, again, depending on your armor piece, this one is rarely armored, so you can again get an upward angle into the armpit. But then there's some samurai have specific armor guards that hang just over the armpit. Another area is where the belt's going to go on. Depending on the time period, you're going to have either a really big puffy belt or you're just going to have a lot of cotton belts. And it goes over this stringed area. That's not the right terminology, but that's where your swords are going to go. But because your swords and armor are going in that same space, that is an opening in which you can thrust as well. And then when it comes down to, pardon for a second. When it comes to your hadate, you've got just, now this is going to go roughly where those strings were. And again, it's usually not armored. So there's another attack point. And then there would be the, as if you're going for the armpit, most of the armor piece is going to be tied up right across the center line. Some have the armor right up to that area, others don't. Regardless, though, there will be that one center strip. So there's not a lot of space that you can actually get a blade in, but there are a few examples. Where am I? Awesome helmet. Thank you. I got to make my own. I had a good sensei, but it had been absent 2 decades since. I formally trained a lot, but inspire me though. Have you ever thought of publishing a book? Sorry, lots of questions. Do you stream like this often? Ask as many questions as you want. I love it. As for a book, yeah, I would really like it. Because my own, like, who the hell am I to write a book? But I think it could be a fun book. And how often do I live? Not near as often as I feel I should, but I'm doing it more often. But yeah, feel free. Ask as many questions as you want. That's why I do these. But I get selfishly, I get to learn so much when I have these live streams. Yes, it's me. I'm a Red Wing, 5th Dan. You were your friends. So I'm assuming you're Halifax based as well. And in Jitsu, and you talked with one of my students. Okay. So you're the teacher of it. Of course, yeah, you're Shidoshi. What would be a good time to talk with you? Yeah. Send me an email and we'll set something up. I never know when's a good time to talk to me. Didn't know you had a full set of armor. Thank you. Do I? It is armor-esque, but it's not. It's not. I'm so defensive. I'm so defensive. It's coming. This is the one piece. Actually, I've built lots of these pieces. I don't need to be defensive. Thank you. It's a fun piece of armor, and it's good for training. We have 4 to 5 Godans and 2 Shihan Nova Scotia, as far as I know. Awesome. Yeah, I've heard there's everywhere there tends to be a lot of ninjutsu practitioners, but it's fun to know that there's, like, is there an active training community here? Like, do we have like a Nova Scotia Taikai? Because we should have a Nova Scotia Taikai. Cool and stylish armor. That's the only way to go, right? It's got to be stylish. I've got a long form video out right now that talks about the different colors and what would you wear. Because I think there's always going to be those that want to have those colors. It's a long story. When I was living in the dojo in Toronto, I had a free weekend, and that one free weekend, I had more than one free weekend, but one of my free weekends, there was a display at the Japanese, it wasn't the Japanese Culture Center, it was like that. It was like the Japanese Foundation. And it was a display of all of these very rare, strange yoroi, these helmets that were just superb. But it made such a statement that these were warriors that needed to be noticed. They needed to be represented and seen on the field. You needed to find them quickly, which just asks a really fun question of that if you are in full yoroi, it's not this idea of continually being invisible and not being seen at those moments. You want to be seen, and some would take it to the point of like creating a persona to have that world. Yeah, that'd be fun. Total side note. I don't know if I even finished that point. Looks great in black. Yes, chainmail armor ever used in was chainmail armor ever used in Japanese warfare? Yes, like everywhere. One in Hombu Dojo, it no longer hangs there, but when Hatsumi Soke was, he had Takamatsu's uniform hanging on one wall, and if you went really close, you can't touch it, of course, but if you get really close, you can see that he wears in most all the pictures. You see Takamatsu Soke wearing this white top, and that white top is all chainmail. All the inside is chainmail. We see it everywhere. But it is slightly different than it's radically different than European armor. It's a 4-in-1, 6-in-1, and then there is some overlapping links, but they're rare. And for the most part, you're going to see it with lots of plates putting in. Now, that is a statement solely on samurai stature, that you would see a lot of metal plates with rings. If you go to, we've got historical representation of ninja armor, and for the most part, their armor fell under a tatami style, a folding style. So some pieces were just solely chainmail with a fabric back, so much just like what I'm wearing, but every bit of it is lined with chainmail. To others that were an overpiece, so like the dough that I was showing you earlier, and it's got just metal all within it, making up or protecting some vital areas. So that's a long way of saying, yeah, chainmail is everywhere. A ninja suit came from the theater. The ninja suit that's represented in media, for the most part, yes, that's that understanding. But for many cases, the actual is just peasant garb. Definitely write a book. You're not forcing anybody to read, just making it available. Craps, thank you. That's a fun idea. You're right. I'm not forcing anyone. It's like, it's their choice. I do want a side note. I want to do a picture book. I want to make enough of interesting ninja tools and have a wonderful big coffee table picture book that goes into explanation. But I like all those things. Thank you for your inspiration. And I'm going to assume that that needs to have that first somewhat introduction of basic ninja taijutsu to practice, that everyone can have a basis. Thank you for the inspiration. I'm writing that on. I used to just thank them and not actually write the name down, but that means in the future, I can say, hey, Crabsoft, remember when you said this? I did that. Thank you. Definitely write a book. Oh, I read that again. That's one of the coolest swords in fiction. What's one of the coolest swords in fiction? I usually go with the Sword of Omens. I think that is one of the coolest swords in fiction. Yeah, I stick to the Sword of Omens. That is my coolest sword. Personally, my coolest sword in fiction, because it was forged from the dying star. Actually, it wasn't a dying star. It was a galaxy. Depending on which storyline you take, a galaxy that was shrunk down to make one sword, and the slag and the off scale were collected to make this sword, the Sword of Omens. Are Americans allowed to train in Nova Scotia Taikai if they dislike the trader and love the music of just one time? I would take the Northwest Passage. Yes. So when I state for Nimpo, if it's like the Nova Scotia Taikai, that just means there's going to be a meeting in Nova Scotia. Anyone can come from anywhere else. It's just kind of a state. It's like, ooh, got to go to Nova Scotia for the Nova Scotia Taikai. You do not have to be Nova Scotia. It would be awesome if like the world came out to this little province to have a little ninja meeting. Got shivers. So you're welcome. Come on over. Matters not your politics. It's the matter of the ethics that you bring to the training environment. And as long as those ethics are strong, we're golden. The advantages of having a steel section to protect against an edge is that it allows you to destroy the opponent's blade's cutting edge over as much as the length as possible. This type of combat needs savant. Oh, we got to go further. Oh, I've missed a bunch. For tuning, mushroom for turning the sharpened body and mind. Do you buy your coal or forging, or do you make it? I am not cool enough to make it, so I buy charcoal. I don't use coal or coke. Nothing against it. It smells really bad and it's expensive. No, I use charcoal and I get it from the local hardware store. I just make sure I buy the best stuff possible, which just means you can't crush it. And then I cut it into a bunch of small pieces and I can forge a lot of steel with that energy. A picture book would be cool. I really like the concept of experimental archaeology. And I think you could help a lot of people start down that road for themselves. Oh, you're awesome. Thank you. That'd be really nice. Get a whole bunch of people going, hell, I can do anything. Yeah. To be quick, don't be quick, savant. And a sword without a sharp edge is only good for cutting paper. Yeah. God, I have a serpent. Totally off topic, but it's on my mind. If this is a sharp edge, I was watching Katori Shinten this morning, and the gentleman comes up to take a guard, and he goes into the position where he grabs the blade to take the opponent's block, take the opponent's strike. Because sharp swords, and if it's a sharp sword and there's a wooden staff, and one, I think the sword's going to get caught in that piece of wood. Sorry. I see schools that use double-edged blades, and they too will grab the edge. But this confuses me. I need to do research on, are they just not sharp there? Are they not sharp at all? Is it only meant for the point in that times of warfare? I find that confusing. So to, I guess, brag about this art, no matter what, when you have a blade, you always understand it is stupid sharp. You just never touch it. And if you do have to touch it, you touch the back of the blade, and specifically it would be the mune. And this part of the steel, why am I showing you this steel? This part of the steel has been burnished. And that just means that the steel high points have been pushed down, so I'm allowed to touch it. Not that I'm allowed to touch it, but it can handle touching it. It's not, the oils aren't going to have as much of an issue, though you're still going to clean it. But that, yeah, they are razor sharp. So always in training, regardless, even a wooden sword, it is razor sharp. Ooh, how do you favor bow staff versus katana? Oh, I missed some. Were siege weapons a thing in Japan? Yes, like the ones that throw boulders at interesting. Siege weapons, they're not going to be as you're imagining them. The siege weapons that I know of, this one actually kind of falls into place, but they were bigger still. And some of these were, just like you were saying with boulders, but to break down and leverage. But to actually have like a catapult, to have, no. There's no mechanized device to do that job. And if there is, I've not come across it yet. But if I do come across it, I will definitely be building one. So if anyone can find reference to a Japanese siege tool, I'll build it. I really hope someone finds one. Okay, now to, pardon me. Katana versus bow staff. This is like Shaolin's tool. This is their everything. I feel at moments like this, I want a set of converted D&D dice that allow me different dice that mean different things, of like dexterity, or was this person really well fed, or was this person a little hungover? Because to ask the question of a wooden stick towards a sword, I can argue both sides of that point until I'm blue in the face. And I don't think I'd ever come to an answer that I feel looks anything like an answer. So no, I'm not touching that one with a 6-foot pole. Yes, but if you hit metal part with that edge, you know. Timothy, rules are foundational. First thing my sensei taught, I don't do enough of them earlier. Bujinkan has the whole from, especially for keeping one's balance and rolling ship and sea, and wish I remembered it. Yeah. Every class started for myself. Every first 15 minutes is just rolls. That was the warm-up of every single class. And there was days where you'd go through like 4 classes in an evening, and every class starts with rolls. I was surprised, man, how strong your thighs became from rolling. We should all do more rolls. Oh yes, the thrust is always good. As long as your hand does not slide, it won't cut through your skin, just as pressure. Yes, I used to do that display. But if it moves just a fraction, and I think I'll remind everyone of the potato experiment, that if you place a potato into a blade and then hit the back of the blade, it cuts through the potato. So if you're holding on to it, if this just gets rattled one little bit, that'll be enough to cut. Even dull. Isn't Japanese siege tool just fire? That is definitely one of the siege tools, one of the most common siege tools, and we have lots of reference to the fire of that. You know, you're just Krabsoft coming up with multiple ideas, and that technically is a siege weapon. So I guess I'm just gonna have to build it. Fire. So we're gonna have to build something just to burn it down. That's a good thing it's winter. As long as you don't move your arm along the edge and risk the cuts during half sorting, it's greatly reduced. It's amazing. I'm just not bold enough. There's no glove that would ever give me enough confidence to half sword like that. It's just not happening. Start with rolls. I think the 2-blade guys are probably wearing gloves. Yeah. Miyamoto Musashi, he's the man, the author of the Book of 5 Rings, killed a huge number of people in duels fighting with wooden sticks against real swords. In his book, he explained that the stick was lighter. Yeah, but we're also talking about Miyamoto Musashi. That's, yeah. It comes back down to the mind. No matter what the tool is, it will come down to the 2 minds upon that day in that moment. My son loved the rolls. He used to go to church and roll down the hallways. They're good exercise, but some people were... I had a guy in the dojo that he would not only start off the rolls, he used every opportunity when doing his kata to add those rolls into place, even to the point of trying to roll down onto your leg, which is really him just throwing himself at your legs and saying it was a roll. It was super effective, and his body could handle it. Yeah, the rolls are really... They're really important, but they also build on a greater aspect of the training, because you're still doing all of those angles, you're doing all of those positions, but so much of it is learning and accepting that you are going down to the ground and you better be comfortable hitting the ground. And I do mean hitting, because most of the rolls, the kaiten, you've got like that acceptance, that flow into the ground. It doesn't always go that way, especially when you're practicing the throws and someone gets you up on their hip and they go, and it's like from 3 feet in the air, you realize I'm going straight down, aren't I? And you kind of experience that drop. The rolls help you absorb that energy. And I guess that's why we should be doing it more and more often, that it's basic kihon, it's basic foundational practice. I roll like a flat tire. Yeah, that's probably how mine look right now. Is it even ninja without rolls? It is not. No, it is definitely not ninja without rolls. They make, like, the movies can have their spins and their flips, but no, ninja should be rolling at some point. Just another way of traversing the ground. You think of all the walking techniques, all of the different aspects, all to train the body, how all the limbs work and where the limbs are. To basic rolling training. You get people from other martial arts that gain into kaiten and they start practicing, and so many of them go through, wow, I never knew it was possible to knee myself in the nose. It's like, yeah, who knew? You don't until you learn it and you knee yourself in the nose. As a lazy bones who goes years without ever being upside down, like in a roll, your head gets jarred and you see stars if you don't keep up with it. Yeah, and you've got to keep up with that breathing. You got to make sure that you have enough water, but yeah. And that up and down. Okay, now that you're saying that, I just need to do rolls back on a daily basis. It is just that important of a foundation because there is that just aspect of going up and down, just that simple squat action, but you're getting much more compound exercises continued with it. Is it true that samurai, after a certain period, use muskets alongside with a katana as weapons? Yeah, arquebus was a total thing, and they were epic for a while. There was at one point daimyos that went against it and said, like, no, we're not using them. We're going back to just yari. These things are just obtrusive. But many others not only kept up with the pace, but continued. I'm trying to like patiently find this part in the book because it's a really great picture. Arquebus. There's the working mechanism for the arquebus, and there's look at the symmetry of that simple tool. So yeah, samurai would have trained solely at some points with the arquebus and carried that instead of their sword. And there's just fabulous. Ninja have wooden, they're not arquebuses, but they're like explosions waiting to happen. I'm gonna have to save that for another day. But yes, they did. They have a wide selection of arquebus, some of them that were just absolutely massive, that they would have had to position them into the ground just to be able to accurately fire them. Yes, first things first, get out of the way of the attack. Yeah, I left it. Some arts don't even bother. They're like, no, I'm staying here. Unlike ours, we just step off to the side like a train going by, and then we deal with our problems and get hit by the sword. So rolls get us out of the way, and they prevent injuries in the dojo and comment even for slipping on ice. Mostly for slipping on ice. So many stories of martial arts that go, well, that was easy. And they just like roll out of it, and they have those little moments. Yeah, it's totally great. Oh, there's another point I wanted to make with that. Getting out of the way in combat. No. Check out the mudra strike of Hema. They grip the blade at their longsword in both hands and strike with the hilt during the warhammer. It's pretty crazy. The murder strike. Where's my... I keep throwing my pen around. This is the murder strike. I missed that. Do you have much information about traveling in that time period? I'm a little obsessed with ancient travel gear. What would have they carried? Sengoku Jidai was an interesting time that all of the borders that you would see on the maps, for the most part, had checkpoints. And if you didn't have paperwork to actually leave your area, you weren't able to leave your area. So there's very specific traveling and carrying devices. For the most part, they're small. They're either small or they're like tanzu. They're like absolute chests. That there's a picture in, it's not one of the books that's out here, and it was a traveling pipe maker. And he has all his kit, and it's pretty much just two cabinets on a stick, which he wanders around with. They had some like all over the spectrum. So I get why you're interested in the traveling and carrying procedures, because there's a plethora to choose from, and the next one is more interesting than the one previous. Grail. Yeah, there you are. Mongetsu, Dojo Builder. That's you. We've actually started on picking that one. I'm finally, I should just make a video. I would suggest yoga specifically, although pose and conditioning for the body to stay upside down. Yeah, yoga just regardless for the body to be able to extend and practice and have that connection as part of your Taihen Jitsu. We're a flexible tool, or at least we're supposed to be. So I back up Zeno, yoga. As we get old, if God lets us grow old, the ability to keep our balance and safety rolls and falls when we lose our balance will protect us from broken bones. Yeah, they will protect us from broken bones. They also, my teacher liked to tell the story that he was walking with his, I think it was his brand new niece. She was just baby small, and he was on the second last step, and he was like joking with her and slipped and rolled and landed, and he still had this little baby that's just giggling. Yeah, that protection that allows. What food items did Japanese soldiers carry? heavy on miso, heavy like salt content, heavy on that soy. There was talk of food pills. There would be rice balls. But interesting that the Japanese armies, when they traveled, they really, really depended on the local areas for their food. They only carried so much supply. Hmm. I've been a dangerous way, or just so different than other warfares where they had to carry. Like I'm thinking of the Roman soldiers that had their regular kit, and they had people there cooking with them. Bicycle is great training and also perfect self vehicle. Yeah, and it's good for the environment, especially mailmen and messengers. It's a great story. Thank you. Hey, remember me? Dark Wind Samurai. Dude, you think with a name like Dark Wind Samurai, I would, but I apologize. I do not remember you. But if you can give me more of a hint than do I remember you, I will try my best. Oh, the traveling time. Do you think of the amount of walking that they would have done? That, yeah, we've got bicycles, we've got horses, we've got this plethora of travel time, but in that time period, everything was just these walking highways. Distraction. Savants. Rice balls is also used by shinobi to make the guard levels and posts. Yeah. Feed them. Walking highways. What? The road quality. Apparently, the road quality was really quite nice. That it was not a raked, but they had specific blades to keep it as dirt and perfectly even, like flat, clean, easy walking highways, but highways by foot. That some of the time period of Ieyasu having his leaders, his traveling back and forth to Edo, and like the sheer size of people that had to go through these different towns and travel. I'm saying easy in the fact that it's level, not easy in the fact that it's just sheer manpower to walk through those areas. To have taken different paths would have just taken forever, which leads me to when they did decide to take over Iga, to then go through the advantages the people of Iga had, that the pathways were just so narrow. You had to go so thin and only so few could travel at one point. I'm getting off topic so rapidly. Were crossbows used? I have not seen any. Okay, I have seen use of a crossbow siege weapon in Chinese warfare, but in Japanese warfare, I've never seen a siege weapon of crossbow, nor of any actual crossbow designed trigger like nothing. Could it be there? Maybe. I've just never come across it. What did the ninja carry their equipment in? Leather bags or something else? Most likely we're going to have like a cotton canvas. We're going to have some sort of fabric that's going to be for carrying. Leather is totally possible. We don't got cows. We got some pigs. And depending on the time period, there was a time where you didn't even want to be killing and slaughtering pigs. But the leather that we had would have come from pigs. And I can't say that there'd be an overabundance of it. So yes, leather, definitely we see it throughout armor and backed up in armor, and then patterns on the inside. So it was available. But I think for the majority of people, for just a regular carrying bag, you would have had cotton bags. It's a modern one, but not much has changed over time. That it is just a cylinder with a simple drawstring that binds closed, and then it's the netsuke. A netsuke is like a little wooden piece that, if I can stand up tall enough, goes through your belt, and as that wooden piece just can't be pulled through, would allow it to be carried. Other than that, there was the also cotton canvas. I look around like I have it, but you can take a piece of material and you can fold it up, and you fold it on the diagonal, pack all your stuff in the center. Some actually had closures for this, and you'd wear it like kind of a quasi backpack that was worn over one shoulder. If you watch Seven Samurai, there's some great references to travel cases. I was the one who said, what do you think about the Odachi? Yes, I do remember you. Not many people ask about the Odachi. It's a great tool, though. So thank you for coming back. It was a while ago. Yeah, but we've only had so many of these lives. You need a pouch. Yeah, you do. Grab some material, learn how to sew, make it sew, or just leather. The one I'm working on now. I think the majority, like historically, at least the ones that I've seen, usually always have drawstrings, which is great, but I'm lazy and I want something that actually takes the belt portion of it. So I'm just gonna like imagine it this way. So for this pouch, that means I can just mount it on my belt. It can't ever fall off, and I will just have a little drawstring like this one. Same idea, but it actually has the laces in place. And it's just like the simplest of pouches. And it's just a soft leather. You keep oiling it, the softer it gets. In every culture, a simple rectangle of cloth. Yeah, we make do. Every culture has some use for that, or some carrying around. Or what is the Greek kilt? That giant one piece of cloth that would just be bound, and they'd have it for blankets, for keeping themselves warm, change it throughout the day, and it's just one piece of material. Is strong moonlight an let's just try that sentence all again. Is strong moonlight an advantage or disadvantage for the ninja? Ooh, that's a depending on the scenario. Now I'm going to go to it can be both. It can be of great advantage. If you've got a really bright moon and people are watching the moon, it means your shadows are extra dense and the eye doesn't pick up movement in those near as much. But all in all, I think it's going to be more disadvantage. It would look really, it's very picturesque. And I think alone, kind of like lighting a fire, you've got that distraction of that full moon and how bright the world can be around you because of that. Where if you take that moon away and it's completely dark, sure, you can move through the space much easier. Of course, you can't make any noise, but it means everyone else around you is also used to that level of light. It really depends. But I like the idea of using that as a distraction, hiding through the shadows. Best case scenario, though, for absolutely infiltration, heavy, heavy rain. No one wants heavy rain. Are there any levels of encryption involved in ninjutsu? I went down a rabbit hole recently researching the history of and how it slowly took over warfare. Above encryption involved in. I feel what I'm hearing from that is, do I have to read between the lines 100%, like through everything? You need to read between the lines. I think more so you need a decoder ring. You need an instructor. You need someone that can like fill in a few basics to fill in the holes. My example would be I met these two guys had trained really hard and they'd gotten all from the books and they'd read all they could. And in some of the books, there were some pictures. So I'm just going to use for the example of Sui no Kata. There's very specific motions that go forward for this very simple kata. When they represented the pictures, they were perfect. They were exactly what they needed to be. But it was their motion in between for that next picture retake that was just mud. It was unclear. It was unfocused, but they'd never seen that portion. That's the issue. It's those missing spaces. It's the sound between the notes that's really hard to grasp of ninjutsu, of when you're just reading it with no other orientation. We can say that the magician's profession is very similar to that of the shinobi, drawing attention to something in order to remain invisible. That is really well said. It's way more like a magician. It's in essence, it's not that exciting. That if there's that puff of smoke, well, it's meant to distract you. It's get them to focus over there. Get them to focus on anything other than what you're doing, and whatever distraction or psychology effects that you can have upon the mind. Why not? That's the weapon. That's better. You can't block that weapon. Well, you can through intelligence, but without intelligence, you're defenseless. Will you make a video about the Odachi and what the advantages and disadvantages of the Odachi? Oh, Darkwind Samurai. I really should. I'm not making one, though. I'll make a wooden one. Because I am not there for that ability. I'll put it on the list. Because an Odachi, I think, would also that's a bad sentence. It would pair well with the Kanabo. Something big, something to get you to move. I felt like the Zweihander. It's that same kind of feel. Are there any anti-armor weapons in this study? Anti-armor, yes. So the first one that my mind goes to directly, you can imagine a jute, kind of like this. Take away this prong and now curve this blade slightly and make the handle look like a tonto. This was an anti-armor bit. The top bit, much like the sai, you could use to hit your adversary. And much like the sai, where you could move in to attack the yoko, use the yoko to attack your throat, their throat. Instead, you'd use it onto the armor and grab those pieces to then open up for another tool to come in. So that tool, I don't know what it's called, is specifically just meant to go against armor wearers. So they definitely had them. Yeah, and also the idea of that other smaller knife that when you get up close, you can find those areas. Timothy, I've enjoyed your videos of you forging ninja weapons of some time. Oh, thank you. And this is a great way to end the week. Do you broadcast every Friday afternoon? Do you sell your forged ninja wear? First of all, thank you. You're awesome. And yes, I have been posting most Fridays. I don't know why I chose Friday. It just seems to be the day that it works. And I'm going to work on making this a continual thing. Currently, no, I'm not selling a thing currently. That's so lazy of me. I'm getting to it. And you will find it. It will be on my Etsy store. It should be on my website, but I'm way better with a hammer. And I'm guessing you're heading off, so thank you, Timothy. Kinetic, how does a ninja manage anxiety in dangerous situations? How do any of us manage anxiety in stressful situations? You got to practice in stressful situations and not give in to that stress. To understand that you have that practice, that is something of the mind, and that is of each individual, of how they go forward to not give into that. I think it's a big part. We say that no mind. It's not that we're not engaging with it, but in those very moments, you are not engaging with it. You're not even letting that portion into your mind. But it is that practice in which, like every day at the dojo, it's those moments when you've decided that you are going to do 1,000 sword cuts with your heavy sword, and you're at 750 and your back is just killing you. No, it's not anxiety. It's just pain. And I think there's part of that of stating, no, I'm going to do my 1,000. I don't care how much this hurts. I'm going to push through. And it's that lesson that just kind of changes over. And also the accepting, we're all going to die. Were dogs common pet in early times in Japanese history? What about birds? I know there's a few representation of cats. Dogs, not so much. Birds, I'm trying to think if I've seen representation of cages. Crickets were big for a while. I swear I've seen some bird cages. No. Although in rural life, dogs probably played a larger portion than I'm aware of, but I've not actually done much study on the pet system. It's a great question. Savant, it's always a pleasure to share in beginning and ending of your company. Savant, you're the best. You've been here for since I've been here. Child, as far back as Sparta, encryption was the use of hide. Okay. Yes, it did. The Spartans definitely, they had such a mythos just to their actions. I think when they take a child, if it rolls to the, I don't remember which one it was. If it rolled to the right, it died. If it rolled to the left, it was a Spartan. Damn. They had some strong beliefs. They were also really quite confined to themselves. So in that fact, yeah, they would totally have very similar, but of course, die opposed. They'd be completely different. Can you bend your sai with strikes against steel? No. I cannot. No, I can't. No, but this is very specific steel. This was heat treated for it to be a hammer, and then it was tempered for it to remain as a hammer. That, no, I would, if I keep striking steel in time, this will just break. I don't, that's a lie. I bet it would bend a little bit first. But they are not, no, this was a really, really good steel. So no, these don't bend. Is there anything specific the books repeatedly warn about, like The Art of War really drives home that you don't want to end up in siege? Oh, The big thing about this is you don't want to end up fighting. Usually the overarching message is like, don't give in to that. The violence is not worth it. Work another method around bouts. So yeah, much like the siege, you don't want to be in siege. Have everyone starve. So yeah, that's a good point. You do mention about siege that everyone should read The Art of War. What wonderful, wonderful ideas. Oh, you are still here, Timothy. Sorry, just the way that you worded that. I thought you were leaving. Band practice starts at 6 Pacific time. I've still got 6 hours. Yeah, you've got a while. I think you're the real deal. Thank you. On direction, I'm here for you. Ninja school I'm from. You're from the same ninja school I'm from. Kick ass. Yeah, we're all brothers and sisters. Savant. Damn, of course, a dog is the best enemy of shinobi infiltration. Yeah, because dogs can smell. Oh, yeah, they can't. They are an enemy. So we talked earlier about rain. Why rain is the best time to attack. One, it's really hard visible. You can hardly hear anything. But in a heavy rain, scent pools really well. So you can get really close to dogs, and they still can't sniff you until they can sniff you, and then you're complete in trouble. But as long as you can stay just outside of that realm, mind you, that realm. I had a mechanic that used to teach that you tighten a bolt to just about a quarter of a point until it breaks. Then how do you know that? He goes, well, you have to break a few bolts. Agreed. Thank you. Sun Tzu. Yes, Sun Tzu. That's a great author. Great book. Great strategy. Timothy. Dogs are a great defense against shinobi infiltration. Dogs knew when American special operators were coming in. Yeah. The Art of War is great. And dogs are great. Just, it's so many different rules, so many different actions, so many ways of keeping ourselves safe. And dogs just do it naturally. Having a few dogs around, they can be half asleep and they feel like there's an intent change. Thanks for answering. You're such a cool dude. Thank you. That's what cool dudes do. I'm not good with compliments, but thank you. Hopefully catch you next time. Yeah, I'll be here. Have a good day. Enjoy your next adventure. Xenon. See you people later. Thanks for giving me a few extra brain cells yet again. Thank you for sharing and adding to our own brain cells. Oh yeah, it's 2 hours. We should probably get on to other things, shouldn't we? We've been here forever. Pardon me, that's why I'm thirsty. Moving during the rain to defeat the dog senses genius. Thank you. Yeah, used to practice with my dogs. You can't make, much like the real deal, you can't make any sound still. All the same rules apply. There's no sound allowed, but it blocks the scent. It pools it in such a way. You've asked earlier, a problem if I missed it, but I think you missed it. Yeah, I probably did. What does one day of self training look like? The nature of being observed seems hard to wrap your head around. Yeah. I think if you're going to stealth, the first day, it's got to be you're blindfolded. You've got to take one, you're no longer allowed to talk, but take away our sensory organ, take away that our brain. Okay, putting aside for the fact that right now, I have a screen in front of me as all of the rest of us do. And that screen is truly in front of us, but our brain is just showing it to us as if it's in front of us. Really, all of this is going on inside of our brain. I totally lost my point. I just got lost in the fact that the brain does all of, best sensory. So by taking that away, one, we're adding into our balance, but we're now hearing absolutely everything that we're doing. And you can really observe on how clumsy you may or may not be to beginning of balance training or stealth training. So removing your sight and then squats until your legs hurt. And I mean like the squats where you're coming up on your toes. And then as you go down, you can't see this. You remain on your toes, but your flex was not touching, and then back up again and then down, and conditioning all of those muscles to have that really controlled movement. The nightingale floors that the emperor put in, the emperor Stroganov put in, have the steel. It's a terrible sound. Can you defeat it? The best way to defeat it, like theoretically at least, is a very slow descent. So you're going to make it squeak, but just really slowly. And then as you come off of that item, you continually allow it to squeak. Worst case scenario, for the most part, you're still getting caught. Take that same principle and just put it on squeaky floors, put it on the floor that makes noise, and have that travel, that control. You were learning towards stealth. Now you just got to do that for like 10 years and add a whole bunch of other training, and then you too can be completely silent. Damned publicity during a live, they don't have any respect. No. In fact, what do you think of those ninja capes or cloaks that they're supposed to use to hide in from your what? What do you think of those ninja capes or cloaks that are supposed to be used to hide oh, yeah, I think those are amazing. Like a ghillie suit, anything that changes your figure, your silhouette. Just to go back to the mind, these eyes are amazing for picking up things that are symmetric and human shaped. So one of those capes, any clothing that takes away your natural figure and how you look, and then you can stand a little differently. Yeah, that is absolutely you. If you're good enough and stay hidden with no movement, you can be right in front of people. Their little brains aren't gonna like pick that up yet. So 100%, if it's done well. There's a lot of caveats to being done well. Thinking back to the dogs during the gold rush, the wolf packs lured the sled dogs to mate with she wolves in heat. Oh, yeah, definitely have those wolves. That's off topic. Get away with wearing just a cloak. It is amazing what you can get away with. It's amazing what dogs have gotten us away with, and how wolves have also changed that subject. But originally, we did domesticate the wolf to the dogs that we have today. That alone is pretty amazing as just tools going. But we can get away with a cloak. You're also going to get caught on a whole bunch more. But if you can minimize that, like some of the modern uses of ghillie suits, where they can just disappear, and then making that, because we have the modern world. I saw a ghillie suit. It was a ghillie suit for personal defense today. And the objective was, I want to leave stuff in my car, but I want people to know I leave stuff in my car. And they had this plastic bag with a bunch of garbage just hot glued onto it. And then they just plunk it on, and it just covered everything with just garbage. You could have very modern looks in the city with very similar aspects. It's amazing. Oh, yeah, we've got that. Oh, there's just so much to go over. One more. Hiding on top of trees seems like a good idea for ninjas. Wasn't it done? Hiding on top of trees. And as fun as that would be, when you get to the top of the tree, they're awfully thin at that point. They're going to be bending over. Too, the eye's going to see it. So I'm not going to say no, because if you're like wanting to view, that's where else are you going to go? Get to as high as a tree as possible. But it's also really obvious. I have a bunch of trees, and there's a tree just out this window that has a big, it looks like someone sits in the top of the tree, and it catches my eye every time. And I know clearly there's not someone in the top of the tree. I know it is. It's a different growth. It's a mutated tree, and it gets a bunch of extra limbs. And it's called the witch's broomstick. It's a really awesome growth, but it catches my eye. But if you only go halfway up, if you keep into the brush of that tree, one, humans aren't great for looking up to begin with, and two, yeah, you can hide with that really well, because there's just so much dispersion, and you're still going to stay hidden. You're not going to just sit out on a branch and look like you're there. Bringing back even that cloak idea, hugging that main part of the tree, keeping your human as much hidden as possible. What is the best steel? Oh, dark wind. Dark wind. It depends what you're doing. It all depends on what you're doing. It's like, what's the best food at a buffet? That for cutting, for slicing through a target, I want something that's going to be kind of brittle. It's going to have really great edge retention, but it's kind of brittle. So there's a bit of a danger. So I don't want to be blocking with it, but it's going to have a really strong, sharp cut. But what if I want something like my planer blades in my wood piece? I don't need an edge like that, because I don't want each cut to be so clean. I want something that's going to last. So I'll have something that's going to have more density to it. It won't have that sharp of an edge, and I'll have to sharpen it a little bit more often, but that edge that I do put on it will last much longer than that ever would. But then, did we talk just steel for weapons? Or we say steel for blades? See, what is the best steel? There's a caveat there. Neither of those steels do really well for a sai, though. A sai would be better for like a steel that would be used for a hammer. You want something that can take a lot of abuse and striking, but it's able to handle that vibration. That can be dangerous when you get to something like a shuriken, though. You want something that's not going to have you're going to have a little bit more ductile, and you allow that heat treat. So that's a long way of saying you can never say that there's going to be one steel that's going to be best for any other job. Just all depends on what you're using. That I have this whole tray is filled with knives, and they're all different style knives for different jobs, for different attributes, for different cutting qualities. And they're all great. They all have a purpose, but for the most part, they're all different steel. That was a long answer for, in the end, just saying, I don't have one. The idea of balance, of taking away senses. Can you just walk around at night? Excellent. Yes, you can. Still think you should be blindfolded, but take that away and just walk around at night. The beginning exercise is to become just connected to the sounds that you are making and the balance that you're taking. As you said, you're walking around at night, you're not going to have as much visuals. So you're going to get used to a certain walking method. It's about that time, that practice, but most importantly, that awareness that's inevitably you are going to make noise. But as you train more and more, what you hear and what someone else would hear would be totally different worlds. Yeah, walk around at night, those black nights, walk around near animals, walking around where you know that there's a lot of noise to be had, like sticks that can break, and you get used to being able to set those feet in place and move through. Just be careful not to do it in a really wildlife area, because if the animals don't hear you coming, they may be a little surprised. A ninja bowie. Thank you. On the note of a ninja bowie, someone made a comment, I think one of the last lives, that there was a representative of a Japanese bowie. Oh, I have to make one. More of a katana, but just like large scale bowie size with more of a Japanese handle. If there was only more time in the day. Modern steels are superior to older steels, I've been told. A lot of us have been told that the newest stuff is the best stuff. And I got a question, are they trying to sell me something? Because that seems weird. Sure. I think I know many people believe that. I'm not one of them. I like old steel. Like this steel right now is the oldest steel I have, and it is just gorgeous. It moves so much nicer. But I'm looking at it also from like an aesthetic point of view. The modern steels have more shine to them. It's only slight, and honestly, I don't know if I could even see a difference of it if I was shown it. But I feel a difference. There's something very different. That this is modern steel. It's nice steel. It's an 80% carbon. It worked well. But it doesn't feel like this steel. Now put both of those things aside. My favorite leather knife that I use, and leather, you've got to have a sharp knife that keeps a sharp edge. That's an O1 tool steel. It's an awesome steel, but that awesomeness also comes at a price of when you're heat treating it. Now, I'm the one heat treating it, so why should I complain? It's complicated. And it's not that I don't like the complication. I like what it produces, but in the end, the feel of the cutting is not the same as that steel. So to each their own. Oh, I can make sentences really long-winded. Hi, everyone. That's from Louis. Yeah, Louis. Ooh, the nights are nice working on metal during the day. I just paint artistically. Oh, I've never been good at painting. 1090 high carbon on my sandstone. Oh, 1090? That 90 is the carbon content, which means it's going to be brittle, which means it's going to cut beautifully. Wow. Yeah, I get a lot of chef knives like that. You can get nice and thin, and they just hold such edges. It's all about the edge retention. It's all about that feeling. Unless you don't like knives. How would ninja practice stealth without making noise? Oh, yeah, you've got to make noise at the beginning. I think the majority of stealth, as we said earlier, magician, it's really easy to be quiet if you got something else making noise. Practice and practice, practice, practice. That's for me walking through the woods. I can choose to go really quietly or I can make a tremendous amount of noise. And it's all about the time I want to give it and the control of balance. And for me, there was a comment earlier of how do you deal with your anxiety? Anxiety is tough because that is something for the most part you may feel that your personal safety is being threatened. So at the point you need to keep as much rational understanding as you possibly can. So having that conditioning of your balance point. So even when you're scared, you're not taken out of balance to go. "Ugh." That you still know that you can receive and change your position. So training, training, training. Yeah, you're going to make noise and you're going to be bad at it. You got to spend a while being bad at it before you can ever get good at anything. Mm, Ooh, can you actually snap a katana or something easily though? Like I just trying to bend the blade between your hands, like hitting a rock with it. Okay, yes, and like no, yes, in the fact that these are really well heat treated, and that edge is meant to be brittle. So you can, like all of these, this will break. I've designed these. So going back to modern steels can give us a lot of strength and they won't break, but they don't cut near as well either. They don't have that same feel. So this has that downside of they are much more brittle. Can I drop it on the ground? Sure. Can I keep hitting something that's steel? No, I can't. It's still got to be treated a very specific way. Louise is totally okay. Oh, Louis, thank you. Do you know the anime character Oishi from Rurouni? Oh, Oishi. Wonders about little middle-sized swords. Oh, yeah, the two Kodachi. Oh, no, which is Oishi? No, apparently I don't. Because there's one that has like an Odachi that becomes two Kodachi. No, sadly not. But Rurouni Kenshin, great anime. She doesn't know what to say. I would think that you also practice to conceal the noises. Yeah, like you muffle, you try to keep everything, but you don't want to make any noise. That's the biggest thing. You're just emptying your mind. That you're definitely not using Velcro at that point. There's no sounds. And embedding it into the atmosphere or of the surroundings. I think you also practice concealed noises, right? Retracted. Walk through the woods indeed. In winter, practice the kata on ice for balance. In fall, practice walking quietly on loud, dry fallen leaves. Quietly and slowly. Yeah. And then to add to it, there's also the quietness of the mind. If you work with horses seem to be incredibly intuitive, or I'm just a very loud thinker. But if you want to sneak up on horses, you sure can't think about horses because they somehow get onto you, regardless of how quiet you are. So, in all cases, it's that balance of the mind, no matter where we come from. That's him, the two Koda. Oh, that is him. Yes, I do know him. It's a long jacket. I love that sword. I swear there's a company, RPA. There's another channel, I think, on YouTube, and he sells swords, and I think he's got one of those. I love the dual Kodachi. I like that size. It gives me the same feel as Sai, that receivability, but unlike where it goes to a katana, where it double-handed and there's something about shrinking down to that level. Personally, at least, it's more about that receiving attacks that I can't get in as deep, but I can get to the hands, I can get to the arms, I can get to the tools themselves. And specifically for him, he's hiding it the whole time. What would happen if ninja failed a mission and came back? Would they get executed or imprisoned? Ooh, that would depend upon, time period, and of course who you're with. There would have been those that there would have been no chance. You had to not be seen. And there's stories where they would have ended their own lives to protect something. I think it's a fun story, but I think the reality of it, I think like modern day military, these people put a lot of time and energy in these agents. You don't want to just lose them so well. Sure, you may get reprimanded, but again, if they've done their job correctly, they weren't seen. And if they didn't do it correctly, they're not getting paid. Whatever retribution comes after that, it could be severe. Kukuri. Oh. Kinetic, I've not done a kukuri yet. Yeah, a kukuri does. So a kukuri, if anyone, it's like kind of like a boomerang. It comes out. It is for cutting. This thing cut like I wasn't there. A kukuri has all that extra weight going forward. I think you can go through bones really easily. So no. Kukuri is already on the list. I just haven't got to it. But I do have some nice steel for it. RVA Katana, is that the name? Yeah, that's a cool sword. I got some fun stuff. Quietness of the mind, the empty mind, you're right. It's not just moving the body quietly, it's also having a quiet mind. Because we can all see that when someone that we know comes in and they're too busy in their head or something's not going right. You go, you all right? You can feel it. I'm not saying you're hearing it, but kind of. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. I got completely off topic and had a great time. Thank you for everyone being here. I'm going to leave us all here. I'm going to call this quits. Let's try that. And what am I going to say? Everyone have a great time. I'm going to run away and goodbye. Bye, Louis. You have a nice day too. From Georgia. Oh, yeah. Oh, from the country, even better. English. No, I love it. That's all I need. Oh, you guys are great. Okay, I'm gone. Bye.